Hey, Gaybros,
Hey, Gaybros Jose.
where are we today?
We are still at our fucking apartments because we can't go anywhere, we can't see anyone, and this pandemic blows.
It blows, and not in the good sense of blowing.
No, not in the fun way when you meet a cute guy at a gay bar. It's not like that at all.
Gay bars weren't those. I don't even remember that being a thing. But that's something that actually connects with one of the things that I find hilarious about this language, that some words can mean deceit or just being shit. Depending of very, very small contextual changes. Like something blows and oh, it blows.
Like it's either a really, really good thing or a shitty thing.
Exactly. There is no like middle ground. It's about like, yeah, it's amazing, is the shit or is shit.
So the pandemic blows in a way that really, really sucks. And
Good.
it's not fun at all.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. For a second here, I was thinking that you were starting to appreciate that you were starting to have a Stockholm syndrome by the pandemic. About like, actually, I'm starting to enjoy this COVID-19. We should have a pandemic every 5 years.
I mean, as an introvert, this is possibly the greatest thing to ever happen to me, ever. The one drawback is that I don't get to see you. You're like
Okay.
the one exception. I like to hang out with you, but with everyone else, the pandemic is fantastic.
I like how this speaks of you, and your priorities. There is like some other people who says that, the mortality rate is bad, the economy like just being completely destroyed, but you is like, no, I don't get to hang out with you. And I appreciate it. I appreciate that,
For sure. I don't care about the pandemic killing other people. I care about it affecting my ability to hang out with you. That's a lie. That was all an exaggeration. I care very much. I wore a mask when I visited my grandma. I would like to hang out at a bar with you. That's it.
I would love that too. And just thinking about like the amount of bars that probably they're not going to be surviving this is pretty sad.
And I did walk past with my husband the cinch today, and I thought about all the great times that we had on that back patio that we no longer have.
But hopefully we'll have again.
We will at some point.
Yeah. Remind me after the podcast to tell you about a bar that I passed by the other day that I hope that is open once that this is over, if this is ever over. But in other news, what did we watch today?
We watched the 1988 film by Pedro Almodóvar, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, right?
Yeah, correct. Mujeres al borde de un ataque de nervios, yeah? You
And
didn't use
this is a question that I've had since I watched it. The translation is completely inaccurate, right?
No, it's exactly perfect. This one is absolutely perfect.
But from what I read is that the title in Spanish refers to hysteria, not a nervous breakdown.
No, ataque de nervios is a nervous breakdown.
Okay.
It's a
Well,
nervous attack. I don't
Yeah.
think there is like a hysteria about like just the old very misogynist perception about like, oh, women are hysteric.
But is it not closer to hysteria than it is to a nervous breakdown, which is a legit emotional condition?
No, I think there is a bit more of an expression. That is like if you get like really, really nervous, just start having like an anxiety attack kind of thing. Or you cannot like control like your panic about a specific situation, you could say that you're having ataque de nervios. Un ataque de
Okay,
nervios.
that makes me feel better because I read a couple places where they said this title isn't an accurate transition, and then I thought about I'm so excited, and I was like, is Jose gonna hate this because it doesn't have an accurate title?
No. I think that this was one of those examples that are like, okay. I mean, it's interesting because you have called it women going crazy or crazy breakup. And you could just get away with it, but it's like, no, they literally translated the title like word by word. Is that the only thing is a nervous breakdown and a nervous attack? I mean, you couldn't actually use a nervous attack in English. That sounds weird.
No, but a nervous breakdown indicates something that's from like a mental health perspective. So a nervous breakdown is something you would see a doctor for, whereas hysteria is just kind of like somebody who's hysterical.
Well, in this case, I think there is a case. Okay, that's interesting. I'm thinking about like when you're having like an anxiety, what is it called? Anxiety attack? No.
Yeah.
Anxiety attack. So it's like you actually feel like overburdened. You start like just having, like like a speed up, like your heart rate, and you feel like overwhelmed about what is going on. This is more or less what it would be like an ataque de nervios, that is like about like just feeling overwhelmed and not knowing about like what to do. But when we talk about like the nervous breakdown, I think that is more accurate to what it happens to the main character, to Carmen Maura. So it's like I don't think there may be like some liberty, like a tiny bit of liberty, but I think that is still like a very accurate kind of description. I think that is like you have to get to a very, very purist perspective for just criticizing this translation.
Well, as somebody very critical about I'm So Excited and its title, I feel happy that you feel satisfied with this translation.
Holy shit, I'm So Excited is random. It's fucking random. Is that the original title is Los Amantes Pasajeros, that is the passenger lovers. Or, like the temporal lovers. It's a bit more of a play, of a wordplay. And it's true, that's pretty hard to translate. But it's basically like someone spent like 5 minutes thinking, like, how can I translate this? It's like, fuck it. They sing I'm so excited, so I'm going to be like going with I'm so excited.
All right, that's fair. Okay, so thank you for clarifying about the title.
Yeah. And this was my pick, and I think that I went with it because I was thinking that there is a bit of a campy aspect to Short Bus. That maybe that's the reason for the 10-minute ovation at Cannes. But I was thinking, like after we watched Young Waters, and after this one, I think that Almodóvar was trying to capture like the campiness. It was like one of his main elements of his films, of his early films, and I'm so excited. And then he evolved into something else. What we discussed about John Waters is that that was his thing, And I think that I was curious to watch this movie after so long. I was like really curious to see Sally how it is.
So when is the last time you saw this film?
8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago.
And do you like this movie? Not to give any spoilers, but do you like this?
I'm not going to be like telling you anything. I want you to actually do the synopsis and then start talking if you like it or not.
Okay. That's fair. Okay, so let's do the synopsis. So the film follows Pepa, and I'm sure she's a famous actress in Spain. I didn't know her. Her boyfriend, which is Carlos? No. Ivan. So she moved to Madrid to be with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend ultimately left her. Because of that, she wants to kill herself, and Ivan continues to contact her by very passive-aggressive voicemails.
Wait. When does she want to kill herself?
When she puts all of the drugs in the gazpacho.
Yeah, but she explains that it was not for her. It was for just poisoning and killing Ivan.
I don't know. I think she wanted to be suicidal. And this comes from me reading the New York Times review where it said she was suicidal.
I mean, honestly, I would tell you that it's like initially I was thinking, wait, was she suicidal or was she like just dealing poorly with a breakup? And it's like when she actually...
This will go into one of my big complaints about this film is that he wrote it, right? Almodóvar wrote it.
Yeah, he writes all of his films.
So I feel like he treats women as if they were, I don't even know what to say, they're toys. They're so delicate and they cannot accept anything in their lives. The only reaction to a man breaking up with them is suicide, which you don't count her committing suicide, but I count the other woman trying to commit suicide. It reduces them into these ridiculous roles where they can't survive without men. It was so insulting the way he treated women in this film. It was absurd.
But they're not looking for a man. they're not looking for a man or just trying to have like help from a man. And actually, it's like they solve quote unquote their problems without the help of any man. Well, sorry. Let me just
these women were so completely helpless. It was disgusting.
Carmen Maura is true that she didn't, she did, but Maria Barranco Candela, she actually ends up fixing her problem by just calming down because of Antonio Banderas' character.
After she tried to jump off the balcony of a building because she was so completely unprepared to experience life as an adult female.
No, I think that it was a bit more because of how guilty she was feeling from the mistake that she did.
So have we talked about the Bechdel test on this podcast?
I don't think that we ever mentioned it, but go ahead, define it.
So the Bechdel test, and we would have to, Google it for more details, but it's essentially a test that measures the conversations of women within film, how strong the characters are, and if in those conversations they talk about men.
Yeah,
and it reduced these women to completely pathetic people who were obsessed with men.
I don't fully agree. I think that they are like just characters that they are like going through something terrible on their life, and they're going through something terrible because of a terrible male presence in their lives. And it's like they're like just displaying about like at what corner they have been felt, because this Ivan character is a piece of shit. I mean, you haven't like just talked too much about him, but it's like he basically, the first scene that we see is this black and white scene where he's like just basically trying to seduce like 10 different girls, like random stereotypes. And he's like, then he's like, okay, that sounds like he's like recording because he's a voice actor. But then everything that we learn about him is like, he is a womanizer, and he has been destroying characters, destroying women along his way.
I agree with you that he's a bad character. He's not somebody who you would want to know. But I resent Almodóvar for writing a script where the women are not allowed to be women. They're just women who are scorned. They are bitter about the men who have been in their lives, and they have nothing beyond that. They have nothing.
Well, it's not about like all the men that are in their lives. It's like it's pretty clear. It's about Ivan, and then this shit terrorists. That is like the random stuff. But it is about.
If that's the case, why didn't Almodóvar let them build interesting other relationships that were outside of these men? He doesn't. He's part of the problem. He reduces women into these people who are just obsessed with men.
I don't fully agree. I mean, as someone that went through a breakup that it has been a bit intense, is like I understand that after a breakup, is that the only thing that you can think is about like the damage that the other person did to you. And it's like that's the nervous breakdown. That is like if you don't handle that properly, it can affect you like pretty deeply. Is that these are not like random characters that is like, they can only think about men because men have been terrible for days. No, it's about this guy, and they're going through that. Carmen Maura is going through that. Carmen Maura, the whole movie for me is a breakup movie. It's like we actually open with the night after she was dumped by this guy. And it's still like someone's like, hey, I don't want to be with you, but I still love you. You are the best. It's like, I'm not going to be like ever sleeping with anyone else, blah, blah, blah. It's like he wants to be like in good terms with her. And you can see that the kind of manipulation that he did, so I think that the story is a bit more of just saying like, look, even if you actually come from a terrible breakup, you can find the strength in yourself, because that's exactly what it's about.
So I don't disagree with you when it comes to a breakup being a life-shaking sort of intense experience. My complaint is that Almodóvar, with his, in my opinion, bad script, never let these women become anything more than women scorned. That's all they were in this film, was women who were done wrong by their men. They never rise above that. They are very, very basic characters that have nothing to them besides being obsessed with the men they slept with. There's nothing more than that. There's nothing beyond that. We never see Peppa become a fully fledged character. We see her, and I know you disagree with me, wanting to commit suicide. We see her obsessing and running around and calling him, trying to get, I don't know, access to this guy. But there's nothing beyond that. There's nothing to these women besides being hurt by men. There's nothing.
I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like I understand where you're coming from, but it's like just knowing the type of cinema that Almodóvar does, that is usually about like just women becoming stronger. It's like I'm so excited maybe that the only movie that is starred by guys is that most of the movies are like by women and actually just being stronger women. It's like All About My Mother. It's about being a strong woman, but they also have the damage. He doesn't want to actually negate that men hurt women.
But that's my point, is All About My Mother showed these very, very strong women that had relationships with each other. They found strength relying on each other. This movie is so reductive, it's ridiculous. Tell me a way where Peppa became stronger because she had some sort of female relationship. She doesn't. She's so pathetic.
No. I think that actually she becomes stronger thanks to actually just listening and supporting Candela, for example. Is it because at the beginning it's like,
the one who was suicidal because she was upset that the person she was fucking was a terrorist? Come on, because Candela
was feeling guilty because of the damage that she was going to be like implicitly doing. She was an accomplice of a terrorist attack. You know, it was not about like I was betrayed by that guy. No, it was about like holy shit. It's like this was a terrorist. I didn't know it. They brought weapons into my, and it's like now if the police actually finds me, is that this is going to be something that ends me in jail. And it's true, it's campy. It can be like reductionist. It doesn't try to be like completely realistic. Almodóvar usually doesn't try to be 100% realistic, but especially on this movie, he tries to be as absurd as possible.
And I think you're right about that. And I think this degree of campiness isn't something that I'm readily able to accept. And I appreciate you introducing me to Almodóvar films, especially the early stuff, because it's not something I would watch. But as I watched this, I was just so disappointed that I liked Peppa. I wanted her to be something beyond her relationship with Yvonne, and it could never do that. It could never break beyond her relationship where she felt she was hurt. There's nothing more to that character besides her being hurt that man broke up with her.
But just think for a second. Just think about like when you are going through something that is pretty intense, you know, like a breakup or someone dying. It's like it looks like your whole life for a very brief period of time is only about that event. And we don't see Peppa, we don't meet Peppa like 3 months before the breakup where she has like a balanced life and Ivan is part of it, you know, or we don't meet Peppa like 3 months later. We only meet Peppa after the breakup. We only are there for the aftermath. You know, so it's
that's what the Bechdel test is about. Almodóvar doesn't give his characters any space, nothing at all, to develop beyond her being a hurt woman because a man broke up with her. That's
but
it.
But it's the topic. It's the topic of the movie. I mean, it's true that you may say like, oh, I want like full-fledged characters that they actually develop to that. It's like, well, you know, for example, that Peppa does voiceover recording. She actually works on TV. She's an actress. People like just stop her on the street. You know that she loves animals. You know like some things about her, but you are like meeting her. I take it as a vignette. It's like, I take it from the perspective that this movie is not about Peppa as a human being, you know, independent from everyone else. It's like this movie is about Peppa going through a very traumatic experience because of a terrible breakup.
It's not just Peppa, it's every woman in that story. None of them have anything to do with being broken up with by a man. None of them. Explain to me one female character that's not defined by her being broken up with a man. There's nothing, because there's nothing to the substance of these women. There's absolutely nothing. And I understand what you're saying about farce, and to be honest, that's something I had a very hard time with. Like, I don't care to watch movies about farce, but there was nothing in these characters that made them interesting. Nothing.
Okay.
They were broken up with men, and that defined their entire life. And that's it. That's
Well,
the whole
not
thing.
that entire life. The only one that is defined their entire life by that is Lucia. That is the mother of Antonio Banderas.
No, come on. Candela tried to commit suicide because she found
No.
out her lover was a
But it-
Shiite.
But it was like just right now. Is that both of them, both for Pepa and Candela, they were actually going through the same experience.
Yes, and Peppa was so completely disturbed by this, she lit her mattress on fire. I don't know what I'm supposed to find interesting about that. There's nothing interesting about a woman scorned who can't handle that. Like,
Okay.
show me more three-dimensional characters. Almodóvar couldn't in this film, and you know that I love Almodóvar. His most recent film, I think I've told you many times, I think it's a perfect film.
Okay.
But here you can see how immature he is, and as a gay man, how he idolizes women, while at the same time forcing them into these completely, I don't even know how to say it. They're so one-dimensional. There's nothing interesting about these women. Nothing.
I disagree, man. I mean, for me, it's like I find Carmen Maura's character interesting, but it's like it's true. It's like he. The what? Yeah, Peppa. Is that from that perspective, it's true that he doesn't want to build up a complete character. He doesn't spend the time, and it's true. It's something that he evolved over time for just giving like bigger or better kind of pictures. It's like if you think about like Penelope Cruz's role in All About My Mother, he could have gone like with a bit more of a simpler character, but it's that the script is full-fledged there. Here, I agree with you that is okay, it's not completely full-fledged, but it still is functional to the kind of perspective that he's trying to display. And yeah, he falls more into the campiness. Just give me a second. He falls more into the campiness, and he knows that he's not doing. He hasn't developed the kind of sensibility to his characters and also like to the whole medium, you know. But I still appreciate. I still get like the kind of characters that they are. I mean, I don't know, how do you feel about Marisa, like the Rosie De Palma character? And that is basically her role is like just being angry and then just having like a wet dream and then just saying like, oh, I'm feeling so better now. It's like, yeah, you have like that kind of a stiffness to your face of just being a virgin.
So I will say that I didn't like this film, but I also respect you as a Spaniard who assures me that Volver is a very interesting and valid film. And I say that laughing, but I think there's a lot that I miss as an American who doesn't understand the Spanish culture. And I think there must be a lot there that I missed in this film. Because for me, I saw this as so ridiculous. And it is a farce. I can admit that I don't like farce, but I didn't find any character interesting enough to invest any sort of emotional energy to.
Honestly, I mean, I understand. And that's the funny thing that I was watching is like, okay, what is the line between the campiness that John Waters does and the style that Almodóvar used to do on the early days? You know, especially it's like these early days, they're closer to what John Waters used to do. Because there is like a lot of campiness on this. Like when Candela tries to jump off the building and she's like just hanging there. He's like, you may like it or not.
That seems super annoyed.
You may like it or not, but it's campiness. It's just for the sake of actually just being like ridiculous. And that's something that is lost if you actually watch, we were talking about Pain and Glory. That campiness is no longer there. I don't know if you watch Julieta, but that campiness is also missing from there. Is that the last one is I'm So Excited. The Broken Embrace didn't have any. The, how do you say, The Skin Within didn't have any. Volver had a bit because of how absurd some of the stuff was about like your dead mom is not a ghost, it's actually living there, like hidden. But this is the style that he used to do, and I understand that it may feel like it can be thought like reductionist to the characters, and I understand that this doesn't pass the vulture test. Yeah, and it's like it's true because this movie is about that. It's about like just talking about men that they have hurt them and how they actually just come on top of it.
But even that, I don't think it's about talking about men that have hurt them. These women are defined. They're defined by the men that have left them. There's nothing more to these women besides that. There's nothing interesting about them. They've been hurt. They're obsessed with chasing these men down in the street. There's nothing beyond that.
No, I mean, I cannot agree on that. I cannot truly agree on that. I understand what you're saying. You have a point, but at the same time, it's like, once again, I go back to the point that is like, if something like pretty traumatic happens in your life, for the next week, all your life is going to be about that. If you meet someone, wait a second. If you meet someone, imagine that you go like through someone like dying on your life, or like a breakup or something. If you get like really emotional about it, if you get like really affected, it's like if you meet someone like right away, probably you're going to be like bringing that up, and you're going to be like talking about that.
But tell me, Jose, my life has been extremely dramatic the last few weeks, right?
Okay.
And when we talk, is that all I talk about?
No, but that's you.
To share
that's you. Is like, for example, for me on my case, I realized that there have been like multiple times. Like, for example, when someone close to me died in the past, is that for the next week, even if I was not like the kind of person that used to share a lot about my personal life, it would come up like naturally. Like without realizing about like I shouldn't be saying this, but it's like I am just telling to everyone, but like, how are you doing? And it's like, okay, this person doesn't know that this happened to my life, and I'm going to be spouting it.
I see your point. I do, and I think the subject is a little close to our feelings. I respect what you see in this film. I just don't think, and I loved All About My Mother. Every time you've introduced me to
another bitch. You better.
I've loved it. You gave it to me as a gift. I've loved his films. I've loved everything that I've seen by him. This film was tone deaf for me. And I admit that I can't accept farce. It's not my thing. But I do feel bitter about how he reduces his female characters. There's nothing, he doesn't have anything to give. He has a shoe fetish, which he was able to show very well in this film. But he doesn't value women as complex characters.
I don't know, man. I mean, for me, it's like this movie works. This, honestly, it's like I think that this is a bit more of, as I was telling you, he was still a bit brute on his style. Like he was not as refined, as sophisticated as he started like just evolving. But something that I was thinking is that, look, I know that you're going to be like looking at me like, what the fuck are you saying? But it's like when I see the kind of care that he shows on how he builds like every single scene, it made me think of Kubrick in different ways. But it just made me not from the script, because something that we talk about Eyes Wide Shut is like it looks like all characters that they are displayed on the screen, they feel that they could be potentially like full-fledged characters. In this case, no, he's playing with the stereotypes. But when I actually think about like how the house is arranged, how everything feels like it's an extension of the character from my perspective, that you may say is like, no, that doesn't resonate to me at all. Is that for me, I think that there is like a lot of care, and just from the interviews that I listened to Almodóvar, like how he's extremely careful with the decoration of the apartments for just telling a lot about the characters themselves without like having to spell it, like looking at the screen.
I hear your point, but I just wish we had seen a heroine that was able to deal with a breakup better than throwing a phone multiple times through the window. And he didn't show any interest in having a woman that interesting. It's not what he wanted to show, and I get it. He has an idea of what women are. I don't find that idea of women very interesting.
Look, one of the things, and this may be also because this is a movie from the 80s, and it's true that some of the concepts, I agree that they have aged probably in different kind of ways. And this
I
may
was
feel
4 when this movie came out. 4.
Okay. So it's true that there may be like a bit of an aspect about like, okay, is this like a damsel in distress kind of a story? Kind of thing. And it's like, it's not really like damsels in distress. I think that it's like just damsels going through a very, very traumatic experience of their life. If it should be like that traumatic or not, I don't think that is completely for us to decide.
But I can appreciate your interest in characters that were in this film, but you cannot deny that there was no woman in this film that wasn't completely destroyed by having a man dump her. There's nothing.
Yeah, but I mean, he's trying to do a thing. I mean, it's true, maybe it's like too on the nose, but it's like, just imagine that, for example, in Ice White Sat, every character is having like a kind of relationship to sex. No?
Yeah, no, I see what you say. I just think that Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise were so much more well-evolved characters in that film. There's nothing evolved about these characters. Nothing. There's nothing to them. They were hurt by men, and we have to watch them go into hysteria. That's it.
Well, sure. Honestly, I mean, I think that they actually, it's not about like they going into hysteria, but it's a bit more about like just finding a solid ground after you go into a crisis moment.
Again, I don't think that women are required to go into a crisis moment and then find a man to recover from that, which is all that Almodóvar presented.
But Carmen Maura doesn't find a man.
What?
The main character doesn't find a man for just recovering from it. Peppa doesn't find a man.
Yes, but her entire emotional arc comes with accepting Yvonne and rejecting him. That's it. There's nothing more to it.
But it's about it. I mean, the thing is, like, I don't think that it needs to actually have another thing. You could actually say that, well, the whole thing for Tom Cruise in Ice White Sat is about like just desiring something that is outside of the marriage, and then just deciding that it's like, well, I can just live without that. Feeling guilty for desiring it.
It's a very complex journey examining, what is sex? What is sex to me? Do I need sex in my relationship?
True.
There's no dimensional aspect to these women. There's nothing.
And that's the reason why I think that Ice White Sat is a significantly better movie. I'm not going to say that this is at the level of Ice White Sat. This is not as sophisticated as that. But it's like, I also think that they are like trying to do like a similar kind of trip on the life of the character. About like, I'm starting in a very traumatic spot and I'm just trying to make peace with what just happened. What do I need for that? It's a lot of campiness, a lot of absurd kind of humor that if you don't like it, it's like it's going to feel like, well, whatever. But it's not trying to be, this is not trying to be like a Criterion Collection level kind of movie.
And that's what I think I don't have the experience or the patience for. Like, yes, I recognize that this is some sort of very, very campy. I don't know what the right label is for this, but it wasn't for me.
No, not all movies have to be for everyone.
That's true. I mean, I'm going to make you watch a Haneke film that I'm pretty sure is not for you. So
I like Haneke. You
like Haneke, but the point is, it doesn't matter if you like or dislike Haneke, it's an experience, right? And I think watching this Almodóvar film is an experience. I like the vast majority of the things you introduced me to from him. This one just didn't work.
That's totally fine. I mean, this is the 80s in Spain. I mean, I wouldn't recommend you to watch the older stuff from him, because before this was even like more bizarre. I think that this is the first time that it just broke the threshold into just becoming a bit more like just mainstream and just having international recognition. If I recall, this one was nominated as Best Foreign Language Film to the Oscars. So
We've established that the Oscars are completely shit.
They're completely shit, but what I'm saying is that this is the first time that a movie from Spain, and then it was Belle Époque, like the first one that it won, but it's that there were only like 2 nominations before Belle Époque to other movies from Spain, and this was one of them. I'm not saying that this is actually like a stamp off, but I'm saying is that this was the movie that brought him out of just being like a very weird gay director from Madrid, like just depicting like people doing drugs and crazy stuff.
Yeah, no, I understand you. I think that just because of the way you've introduced Almodóvar to me, I expected more. And you're right, this is his mainstream attempt. This is something like
No, I couldn't say that this is his mainstream attempt. I'm just saying that it's like this is from the early ages. This was like the first one that you would actually talk to your parents about.
Did you talk to your parents about this?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, this what is like the worst thing that it can happen that it happens on this movie?
No, nothing. I mean, women are super sad about being left. That's it.
I think that they're like more like angry or desperate, more than super sad. Because Carmen Maura is super angry about it.
Yeah, they're very angry, very desperate.
But the previous ones to this, they used to involve like way more sex and drugs and other stuff that probably wouldn't be like just talking to your parents about.
So which was first, All About My Mother or this?
This by 10 years probably. Let's see, director.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up.
Yeah. Pepe Lucibon, yeah, that's crazy. Labyrinth of Fashion, Dark Habits. What have I done to deserve this? Wow, if you were to watch that, yeah. So this is 88.
Yeah, that's 88. And
yeah, 99 was All About My Mother.
Yep.
So they have been, from this point on, well, Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, that's another creative title. There's just Tie Me. And that one is weird. And I think that if you have like a problem about not objectification, but about like reducing female characters, is that with Tie Me Up, I think that you will have like a bigger problem on that one. High Heels, I like High Heels. Kika is incredibly surreal. The Flower of My Secret, I think that is when he started developing like more of a visual sensibility. There is like an amazing scene, they're pretty famous on The Flower of My Secret. I think that is on this one. Yeah, that they had a frame, like a picture frame, that is like just made of marbles. And he actually used it from the perspective that, look, this was a gift that someone from Italy gave me, that he made for me, blah, 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 and I love it. But it's like, because of the visual aspect, I think that it would have like a very impactful effect if you just drop it and it breaks. But they were saying that we don't have a replacement for this. It's like when we actually just record this, we will have to make like a new one. So they actually usually in a scene, there's like a very like famous scene that you can see like in slow motion how it actually just drops to the ground and the marbles that just sparse out, like just representing about like how their love is just being lost. So one of the constants on the movies of Almodóvar is just pressuring female characters into very drastic or demanding situations. Like All About My Mother is about losing a kid. The what?
But overall, you liked this film?
Overall, I liked it. I had to say that is that the campiness for me, it didn't work as well as it did like 9 years ago. And it's true that we are at a different place now, that you're going to be like analyzing, as you said, regardless if it's a farce, regardless if it's trying to be like an absurd comedy. That is like how people actually look at this film. It's about like, look, it's absurd. It's like an absurd comedy. It's like when they throw the answering machine and it just falls on top of the car of the lawyer. That is like, what are the odds? Physically, that's impossible, what you just described here.
And that's what I had a really hard time about, because I didn't like this film, but I absolutely understood that it was a farce, but I couldn't accept it as a farce. And that's my problem. It's not a problem of the film. It's just not my type of film, which doesn't say anything about what it is. It just says a lot about what I was willing to accept at this time.
It's a different, I mean, the thing is interesting that you watch, after you not liking this one, I was going to say that it would be interesting for you to watch from this movie to All About My Mother, and you could see his transition about like, oh, actually, I can do more than this.
Yes, and I consistently thought about All About My Mother because you gave that to me as a gift. I have it on DVD, and I fucking loved that film. Yeah. I loved it, but I also felt like the characters were fully developed.
Oh yeah.
And in this film, they're not.
Yeah, but it's like the thing. the thing with Almodóvar, I think that he was like the campy director that everyone loved in Spain. About like this guy is crazy, and he's still like depicting about like what Spain was during the 80s in a very absurd and exaggerated way, but he was like just doing more timely cinema, that timeless one. And then he started developing more his skills about like, because something that I was comparing to Hairspray and everything from John Waters, and I was saying like, look, this is as absurd as some of the aspects from John Waters, but I think that there is some sensibility behind his stories, like the drama aspects of it. It's like if I actually extract them, I'm not saying like everyone has to, but it's like I am interested about these characters. I actually can resonate in some kind of way with these characters. With the characters in Hairspray or any other John Waters movie that I watch, is that I don't care. They can do whatever they want. I understand that for you is that these are not like full-fledged characters, and I think that this is something that Almodóvar grew on. As more movies started just happening. Because the one that was telling you about like Tie Me Up, you have like a big problem with it, if I recall it correctly. Like a really big problem.
Which is something I admit, like you have a cultural perspective that I don't have. So when this came out in 1988, it meant something to you that it doesn't mean to me. So I acknowledge that I lack the perspective of a Spaniard from 1988.
Well, it's not only about that. I mentioned it earlier. I think that also, for me, watching it now, I didn't like it as much as I liked it like 9 years ago, the last time that I watched it. Because now I realize more about how timely it is about like the kind of story that is portraying and the kind of actions that they are portraying is like it's not something that we will see right now. No one would actually re-record. He wouldn't re-record this movie again, ever. You
don't think he would make this movie again?
No. If he wanted to say, okay, I want to make a remake of this movie, he would turn it into a completely different story. I don't think that he would do it to begin with, but it's like if he had to, he would turn it into something pretty different.
And I respect that. I mean, you know that I like Almodóvar. I like him a lot. I just think he missed the mark with this one.
I think that this is completely adequate for that time. I think that when I see the progression about like what he was doing before, I was like, that's something crazy. To this one, that is the first one that I could actually say is that there is, in all of them, he tries to portray female characters that they are coming from something negative. Like in
I love that. I love how he portrays female characters. That's something I admire a tremendous amount about him. When you had me watch All About My Mother, I thought, wow, this is incredible that a man has this perspective on female relationships. I promise you, that's something I admire about him. That was completely missing from this show.
Look, for this movie, I'm thinking right now about, how's it called? Marisa Paredes in All About My Mother, that is the actress that is doing A Streetcar Named Desire, and there is this amazing scene that I love when she's like just opening her heart to Cecilia Roth and just telling her about like the relationship that she has with her lover. You remember? He says like we are terrible for each other. He said we just hurt each other, but I cannot stop loving her. Is that those moments of kind of honesty are missing here. They are not like displayed like directly. It's like for me, I see like that kind of honesty is like a bit more like the opening when there is this background voice of Carmen Maura talking about her loss, about like an event done me, and it's like we move here, and just displaying like a bit more, gives you an introduction, and there's like craziness what happens. But I still like this movie. I think that there are like problems with it, but it's like I still think that there is more than you give it credit for. I understand your problems, the problems that you display, that you actually just portray with it, but I think that this is not a failure. If I went to look at other movies, for him, Tie Me Up is a fucking failure for him, like an offensive failure. And it's true that I watched it in the 90s, but it's like, it's bad.
I completely respect your opinion, and I think we should also take into account my state of mind in the last several days. So I'm very, very certain that I'm biased when it comes to this. I just feel, like you said, when I watched it today, I don't think it's very strong. I don't think it's an important film. I don't think it will last the test of time.
I mean, it has been 30 years, 32 years. It's what released. 33, actually.
Holy shit. I feel super old.
That's a bit of a test of time. But I get it, man. I get it. I think that part of it is absurd comedy, and I think that it has some dialogues that I was watching it with a friend, but I was not paying attention to the subtitles.
What friend?
My friend.
Which one?
I only have, well, sorry, it's not my Gaybros.
It's not your best friend. Who is your best friend?
Oh my God, I'm not going to be answering this in a podcast, but sure, for sake of the argument, is that you are not only my best friend, but my only friend. So this acquaintance that I have, we're watching it, and it's like, that was weird. That was a weird movie, and I agree, is that this is a weird movie for a non-Spaniard. I get it. It's like a thing that is like, I would like to discuss this with other Spaniards. I'm not saying that it's like, oh no, but I
completely respect that. I think this is a film that makes sense to you with your cultural context. That's it. I'm missing a lot here.
No, I'm saying that is that the comedy part is that there are like several things that I think that is okay. This absurdity and the kind of jokes that they are doing for someone that is from Spain is going to be more amicable to them.
I agree, and I know you hate Clueless, but I think there's a lot of similarities in when I watched Clueless and I saw all of these social cues and I felt like this makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I suspect, and I could be wrong, that this film has a lot of that for you.
Yeah.
You grew up in Spain. So I just think this is culturally something that doesn't make sense to me, but I'm happy it makes sense to you.
All right, that's good. So would you watch it again?
No.
I would again. I'm pretty sure that I would watch it again. This is like the first kind of Almodóvar movie that I watched of him that is like, I get it. I get why people like this guy.
Did you like this movie more than All About My Mother?
No.
Okay.
No, if I had, well, I'm not going to be like getting into the score, but yeah, I would score All About My Mother significantly higher. And there is also something else between All About My Mother and this one. There is he loves displaying his love for classical American cinema. On this one is like he doesn't like delve too much into it. I wish that he did a bit more, because both of them are like voice actors that they are like just dubbing like classical romances from Hollywood. And All About My Mother is all about Eve. There is like a strong correlation.
You like that or you don't like that?
I do like that. And I'm saying that it's like it's a thing that he reuses across his movies about like he loves to display his love for classical American cinema.
Yeah, I didn't see that at all in this film.
I think that he didn't use it as much. All About My Mother is he doesn't hide at all that there is a bit of a parallelism with All About Eve in premise.
What did he direct right before this?
Before this one, let me just check. Oh, The Law of Desire.
So nothing really major.
I mean, they were major in Spain. Is that he was already Matador. Woof. Okay. What have I done to deserve this? That one is like I don't think that you'll be able to just even finish watching it. Honestly, because of how surreal it is. There is like a mother that it has if I recall which one it is, but she's like the mother of a family that everything is terrible. At the end, the daughter has like a ESP. She has like powers and makes like everything on the kitchen fly. The kid ends up having an affair with their dentist. So pedophilia kind of thing.
The child?
Huh?
How old was the child?
12.
Oh yeah, so like real pedophilia.
Yep. And basically, is that they sell the kid to the dentist. That, yeah, we can knock you. This is bad. It's bad. If I recall correctly, it's like this was like, ooh, no, no. And Dark Habits. Dark Habits is about like a convent of nuns that they are like involved in some kind of drug dealing stuff, and they hide like a fugitive of justice. Pretty surreal too.
I feel like I might have seen that. I could be wrong.
Yeah, maybe I told you about it. Labyrinth of Fazio. Oof. I only watched this once, and I remember like, no, yes, no. Yeah, the previous stuff I had the feeling that it's like completely stuck in time, like 100% stuck in time. That is like, look, you were doing like some kind of jokes that maybe at that point were edgy, but okay. And this one is like the first one that is okay, you are not as edgy anymore, and you are like just coming to a point of just exploring more the sensibilities of your characters.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think this is not the film for me. So, going back to our questions, you would watch it again. Do you think there's something artistic about this?
I think that there is starting to be something. It's still a bit rough, but it's like I think that some shots are nice. How he uses like some of the visual aspects, how he uses like the colors, how the apartment is not just design. Is that he knows what he's doing, let's say.
I think he does have a very defined sense of who he is as a filmmaker. I mean, when I started the intro, and I saw the high heel, and it was just constantly in the introduction of the film, I was like, okay, this is Almodóvar. I feel like the filming was pretty functional. There wasn't anything that was remarkable about it.
Okay. Yeah, for me there are like several shots that I like, but I also understand that the campiness may actually just bring it down a bit. I like, for example,
I don't understand campiness. What's the film that was? It was recent, and it was about a woman dragged to hell. Do you remember that film?
Dragged to Hell, but Dragged to Hell was like what, 8 years
like
ago?
10, 15 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, from Sam Raimi.
Yes, people love that film. I couldn't love it because I don't do campy. So I'm not saying this film is bad, but I don't do campy.
Do you like Evil Dead?
No.
It's not for you, man.
So then, this may not be the film for me.
I had to say that I like Drag to Hell more than I expected, because I think that Sam Raimi, he did like the Evil Dead movies, he did the Spider-Man movies, he did the Usual Suspects.
And again, you loved Cabin in the Woods. It's not my
film. I do.
It's not a criticism, it's just that I am not the audience for this.
And that's absolutely fine. Would you recommend this movie to someone that may be the audience for this?
I would recommend probably 10 other Almodóvar films, but I would never recommend this film.
I would recommend it, and now that you have told me all of this, probably I would recommend this one before any of the ones that I think that they are superior, so people can actually understand where he's coming from.
Even the Skin I Live In? Even the Skin I Live In?
I would never recommend The Skin I Live In. I would never recommend that movie, honestly. But I would say that if I just watch this, is that this is not a representative movie of where he is as of now as a director, but it would explain you where he's coming from.
But, okay, so I respect your opinion, you're a Spaniard, but if someone sat down with you and said, hey, please recommend an Almodóvar film, you wouldn't recommend All About My Mother before this?
I would recommend I will ask, do you only want one, or do you want to explore this as a director? Is like, are you interested on the best of, or you're interested in him as someone that has a career?
Okay, I can respect that.
I mean, for example,
I don't think this is the best of his films.
Oh, no. I agree with that. Is that this is not the best of his films. But for example, if someone were to ask you, can you recommend me just one Kubrick film? Which one would you recommend? Would you recommend Eyes Wide Shut?
Eyes Wide Shut in an instant.
Okay.
And then I would say.
And then others. 2001, Clockwork. Yeah. For me, probably I would recommend A Clockwork Orange. I think that I like it more than Eyes Wide Shut, personally. But in any case, if someone were to ask you, you say, "Oh, can you just tell me like what is the most representative thing about Kubrick?" Would you recommend still Eyes Wide Shut?
Yeah, I would. I don't think that A Clockwork Orange is representative of what he did as a whole. I think 2001: A Space Odyssey, Eyes Wide Shut, I think those are more representative of who he is as the person.
For example, for me, I would say that this actually captures like what is his style in the campiness, that he has been like just toning down, but he still keeps it. You can see it in All About My Mother.
In fairness, I need to rewatch A Clockwork Orange. I haven't seen it in years. I remember really liking it. Maybe it's as striking as you feel it is. I would have to go watch it.
Yeah. But yeah, I would recommend if someone asks me about like, oh, can you tell me something about Almodóvar? And I would tell them is that look, they're like series of movies that you should watch. Start with this. Just forget everything before this. Start with this. Go watch High Heels then, and then just watch All About My Mother, Volver, and Pain and Glory.
You would honestly recommend this before anything that he's put out in the last 10 years?
No. If you actually ask me, just give me one movie, I will go with All About My Mother. If you ask me about the last 10 years, because All About My Mother already is 20 years old, 22. If you ask me from the last 10 years, probably I will go with Pain and Glory.
Because that's his best film. No, I asked that because I think his later work is much, much more impactful. So when you say that you would recommend this film, I'm surprised.
Because I think that this explains who Almodóvar has been through his career. You know, if someone asks me, but I'm not completely convinced that the Almodóvar from nowadays is stronger than the one from the late 90s and 2000s. I think that Pain and Glory is a good movie. It's a really good movie, but I don't think that is his best. I think that All About My Mother and Volver are better than Pain and Glory.
Do you think that Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown is better than Giulietta?
I mean, for me, that Giulietta feels a bit failed, a bit like out of focus, more than anything else.
You're insane.
No, man, I mean, we have like different perspectives. Like for me, the problem with Giulietta is that you can actually see the seams, how it's actually just trying to be stitched together. It's like this, and this is the same problem as the Skin and Living or Within. That is like you are adapting someone else's work, and it actually just feels.
I see your point of view. I do. I just think that the films he's put out in the last 5 years are so clearly superior to the things he did in the 80s. But that's subjective. I'm not saying, that's not saying that I'm right or wrong. I think that I prefer the things he's done in the last 5 years, and I think you prefer, much like Hunger, right? Like, it's imperfective, but I prefer the early films of Steve McQueen.
Yeah, but I think that, well, I mean, maybe like similar. Like I think that there is more heart to Hunger than there is to 12 Years a Slave. I mean, it's not that there is no heart, you know, but it's like it's a bit more of a, you're playing by the manual.
But would you say that about early Almodóvar films, that there's more heart? I think that's what you're saying, is that
I think that there is more heart that he actually changed into something else. There is still heart. There is a lot of heart in Pain and Glory. There is a lot of it because it's himself, it's his life, you know. But he actually toned down like the craziness of his younger years. It's a guy. It's not about. I don't think that it's about like the heart on this case. I think that it's a bit more about like the kind of person that he was at any point in time. And I think that now he's like way more subdued compared to what he was on the 80s, completely. And I think that there is a balance, you know, in between like the sensibility that he has developed right now and the campiness that he had at the beginning, that is like during the late 90s, and that's what All About My Mother and Volver is.
So I want to be super clear that I don't think this was a bad film at all. I think that we have different things that resonate with ourselves. And this resonates with you more than it resonates with me, but I don't think it was a bad film at all.
No, and that's even if is that there have been movies like, for example, Clueless. I didn't resonate with it. I don't say that it's bad, but
yes, but in the example of Clueless, you hated that film. You hated it.
I didn't hate it.
No. There's nothing that resonated with you, and that's okay. What I'm saying is that there was something in this film that resonated with me, and I liked it.
Okay, it's fine if you don't like it either. But in any case, the reason why I would recommend it is because, as I was telling you, is like I see a clear trajectory on Almodóvar, and I see that it's like in here the sensibility is not as high, but the campiness, and the absurd is high. You can see it as a comedy. 90% of it, you can see it as a comedy. It's like people just going through terrible times, but it's a comedy.
And I value that comedy, and I can see how this played a stepping stone into where Almodóvar became as.
Well, because I think that is like the first one that that sensibility is starting to just show. It may be fail for you. You may feel it, and characters are still like completely two-dimensional, and this is a complete failure. For me, I think that it actually just starts setting the course that it gets to All About My Mother and it gets to Pain and Glory eventually. For just mentioning like 3 movies. And I see like the campiness and the absurdness, how it actually just starts like just going down. And Pain and Glory is too that it still has like a bit of absurdness to it. Like the scene where they're like getting high and Antonio Banderas, yes, Antonio Banderas, like calling to the conference where they are presenting his movies, like, hey, look, I'm not going to go because I'm super high right now, but I will be answering your questions now.
And you know that I think Pain and Glory is almost a perfect film, so I can also appreciate where Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, how that played into where he got to. I just don't think it was his greatest work.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was talking with when I was talking with some friends about Pain and Glory and they didn't like it, they were like, what is the point of it? He said, what is the change? What is the kind of evolution? He said, well, I mean, it's someone that he was dealing with a midlife crisis and he was like feeling completely blocked, and he did an introspection of his life, and then he comes on the other side about like just feeling, like just better about things and just encountering his muse again.
But again, I don't mean to beat a dead horse to death, but if you think about the characters in Pain and Glory, they're extremely complex and three-dimensional. It's nothing that Almodóvar gave his characters permission to do in this film. He wanted them to be extremely basic and not have any dimensions to them.
I feel like he goes to the extremes. That's what he used to do in the 80s, as I was telling you. It's like he used to be like pretty edgy. It's okay, if I have to make a point about it, it's like these characters is not about like just being like three-dimensional or anything. This is about like just going through a very traumatic experience, and this is like the 48 hours where they're dealing with this. Not even like 48 hours, because, it's for 48 hours, but Carmen Maura doesn't sleep. Because the night that we see her is I see that she leaves everyone sleeping on the house. And she goes into a crazy race, a crazy chase scene. But it's okay, I don't know. I'm trying to think about other movies that they are like just displayed on a very, very short period of time, of 24 and 48 hours kind of thing, about like something drastic happening to them. And I know that the examples that I'm thinking about is that they're like pretty subpar, let's say, like the Colin Farrell, is it? No, the one that the phone booth one.
Phone booth. That was the name of the movie.
Who was the big actor? Oh, you do?
I saw it when it came out, and I thought it was great, but I haven't seen it since then.
I just think is that that's a movie about like, it takes place only in 90 minutes. The guy cannot leave the phone booth, and they only display about like he's a piece of shit. But it's like he's reduced to a stereotype. It's not about like so much about the three-dimensional character. It's about like, look, you're going to be like going through something like very traumatic and very intense, and but we don't care too much about you as a full-fledged human being.
Yeah, we don't, and there are films where I feel very forgiving about not like building three-dimensional characters, and this is not a film where I felt like that. And I apologize. I don't know what else to say. I mean,
for me, there is enough to the characters. I agree with you. That is like I agree with you that is like if I compare it to more recent movies, is that this is it's pretty basic. You know, he's not spending a lot of time, but I think that they are like just fine. They may be a bit more of a vehicle for just telling a story about like just women destroyed by men, but it also just give like the the forgive card. You know, like you get out of jail from the perspective. Is like you are just giving me what I need to know for just this specific point in their lives.
I think that I have so much faith in Almodóvar as a filmmaker, as somebody who writes a script. I think I was just disappointed in the fact that he wasn't able to create women who were interesting. None of those women were interesting.
Let's watch High Heels, because now I'm curious. I remember that High Heels does that, but I may be completely wrong. Maybe I'm like just like idealizing this movie. But I think that High Heels actually was a bit more of an evolution between like All About My Mother and women in the at the Verge of a nervous breakdown.
And besides Voltaire, I think that his representation of women is incredible. Voltaire was a piece of shit.
Fuck you, man. Fuck you so hard.
That was a joke. That was just
okay. Because believe me, it's like I didn't want to like that movie. I think that it took like a while. It's like everyone was like just raving about it. I was like, it's not going to be that good, you know. It's Penelope Cruz, you know, main. I didn't respect Penelope Cruz too much.
For Cristina Barcelona.
But she does an amazing job in Voltaire.
Agreed. And all joking aside, I love Almodóvar. I love the films that you've showed. No, I'm not joking. I've loved when you've introduced me to All About My Mother. I like him. I like him a lot as a director. Just this one didn't.
Okay, that's fine. Let's just keep going with the questions. Would you remember this movie?
No.
Yeah. I remember most of it. There were like some specific sub stories. I didn't remember that Ivan was going away with the lawyer. You know, I didn't remember like that layer of the story. Yeah, I remember that Antonio Banderas was Ivan's son, and there is like this kind of connection. For example, I like the scene when Carmen Maura is talking with Antonio Banderas, and he says that you are the only good thing that it came out of Ivan.
Yeah, I think this entire film was super inconsequential to me, and I'm not going to remember anything about it.
We already said about like there's anything artistic about it, but I really like the scene, and you can tell me it's like that's completely done, but I like the scene when Carmen Maura Pepa is talking with Julieta Serrano and Lucia, you know, and they're like talking on the phone, and they're like both staring at the camera, that the framing is absolutely perfect. As we talked like several times about like the rule of thirds, is like you really spend time on this, like just having like this kind of open heart conversation between these two characters that they are like orbiting around each other, and they hate each other because of the damage that Ivan did to both of them, and how they are like looking at each other through the audience. And I felt it's like this is sick. I love it. I understand that you're doing it a very like face value. There is not like too much subtlety to it, because when a character is like staring at the camera, you know what you're getting into. But it's like, I know that you have framed this like 100% perfect, but it was one of those moments that I felt is like, this is good. This is like the kind of stuff that I've seen, you know, in other films afterwards.
I will say that his eye for his aesthetic is remarkable. From the time the credits started playing, I was like, this is a fucking Almodóvar film. And the fact that it's so present. I love it. But at the same time,
it was not that you had like higher expectations for it. And that's absolutely valid.
If you pay attention to the opening credits, he literally showed a high heel like dancing across the screen. I was
Yeah. Well, those are the elements. Those are the tools that are in his toolbox, and he knows how to use them. So.
No, I was just going to say that I love the progression from this film to Broken Embraces, where he takes the obsession with a woman in a high heel. It's very campy. It's fun, and then in Broken Embraces, he's like obsessed. There's like nothing that's serious, nothing that's not serious. He just has to show Penelope Cruz completely destroyed in a car wreck.
I'm not a big fan of Broken Embraces. High Heels, as you expect from the title, also plays a lot with shoes.
Yes.
So. Do you feel like this is a timeless piece?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, there's nothing in it that like keeps it firmly planted in whatever time it was. I mean, the cell phone thing bothered me a bit, but I think the issues that are examined are completely timeless.
Yeah, I said earlier that I think that there are aspects to it that they're going to feel timely, that for me feel like a bit more like timely about it, how he's depicting, like Spain. But, or like even like the role, it's going to say like the role of women. I don't know, there is like something that I would have to watch it again in 10 years for actually saying, it's like if I can detach myself from my personal connection to this movie and just like the time that we are living in.
Yeah, I agree. I would want to watch it one more time before I made this judgment call. But initially, no, I don't think this is a timely piece. I think that Almodóvar does have the ability to see things in a more, I don't know, timeless perspective.
I think that he reduces it to the core motif, that is not about like something more superfluous like the Lost Boys, that I think that is the one that we always bring as timely. But he uses elements, as I was telling you earlier about like what have I done to deserve this. That is like that movie would have to be just revamped completely by nowadays standards. And this movie, I think that it would have changed quite a bit of it for 2021.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was going to be remade. Yeah. So I'm a bit torn on this one. And the last question: would you turn this into a TV show?
No, not at all.
No, I think that for me this works from the perspective that it's a very brief period of time, and it's just about like just coming to terms, like just finding your ground after something bad happening to you. It's like if they were to stretch this over 10 hours, no.
I appreciated the subject matter for contemplation in a film. I did, 100%. I thought that regardless of whether I liked it or not, the film itself was compelling. But I didn't want to watch any more than 2 hours of this.
That's totally fine. So what is your score? As this was my pick.
5.
5?
5.
For me,
I thought this was perfectly mediocre.
For me, this is a 7. And I actually was checking back, and it's like, I think that this is the inverse score that we gave to Clueless. For me, I feel like this is not his best, but I still think that there is something special about it.
Is it wrong that I feel embarrassed about how much I like Clueless?
Oh no, that's your call. I mean, I like this movie. It's that one of them was nominated to an Oscar, the other one wasn't. No. I'm just saying. one of them had an original screenplay, the other one had to actually just steal a period piece and just turn it into a high school comedy. But that's
you're just like a bag of dicks.
All right.
Have better taste than me. You know that. There's nothing beyond this podcast. You have better taste than me.
Nah, I don't think that it's about that, man. Now I'm curious because, well, my acquaintance that I watched this movie with is a guy. I don't think that he's listening to this, so it's absolutely fine. I don't think that he has the most sophisticated taste when it comes to cinema. So from my perspective, I think that he will be like a bit more of a, everything is going to be, sure, that was interesting kind of thing. But I would like to hear other people's opinions, like people that I respect more in their cinema aspect about like how they feel about it.
Why don't
Actually,
you show this man, show him Clueless, and then show him Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, and let me know how it goes.
no, I was going to be asking my relative that recommended Blow Up and
Yes.
Celine Dion Goes Boring. I'm going to be
Oh,
asking him is what he feels about it. But once again, it's like I think it displays a bit more like the kind of perspective of the sensibility of the 70s, you know, on those movies. And I think that someone that has that kind of sensibility is going to be appreciating this. Probably is not going to be appreciating Clueless. But
No, you're completely right. They wouldn't appreciate Clueless, but I would be interested to hear their perspective on this film.
yeah,
And only because I do feel like it's dated and it's not elevated, but I would like to hear from somebody who has a cinematic taste and understanding of what the film is.
what did the New York Times say about this?
The New York Times was super, super lukewarm about this. They said it's very funny. In some scenes, it's not funny. It's just a little bit better than okay.
So just entertainment.
Yeah. They said that he was almost a master at farce.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. I think that is like what his strong point back then. It was the campiness. He was trying to be at that point. I think that he was just trying to find his ground about like, am I just like the Spanish John Water?
And to be fair, if I was in 1988 and I saw this film come out, I think I would think, wow, this is new and different. I really do. I think I would have liked this film back then. But with 30, 25 years of perspective, I don't think that in the perspective of time, it turned out to be anything interesting.
Not only that, also like just knowing where the director has gone to afterwards.
That's true.
And if you
Watching
actually compare,
Glory, I can't forgive this film because Pain and Glory is perfect.
okay, so but imagine that, for example, that John Water had actually grown into being like a more serious director, and he had directed, I don't know, I'm trying to just think like something that we watched from Hollywood in the last couple of years, that he had directed Parasite, something similar to Parasite. That is, okay, it still has like some kind of comedy associated with it, but it has like a bit more of a topic behind it.
Yeah, that would be really hard for me because I can't separate what a director has done in the past. I don't know that I can allow them to move from slapstick to serious film. And
But
that's
the thing,
mine.
yeah. But the thing is, like, that's the reason what I'm saying. Like, if someone tells me, that, hey, I heard Almodóvar is pretty good, why should I watch from him? I would tell him like a list of movies, because you actually watched All About My Mother, like way before you watched like Pain and Glory. You know, it's like, so you actually expected that it's okay, I know where he is right now, I like Pain and Glory more, so it's like if I continue like this kind of trajectory, I expect that at least whatever he directed like 10 years earlier is going to be along the same lines. I don't expect like too much of a change from those, because you can still say like All About My Mother and Pain and Glory, you can say that those two belong to the same director, not only from the aesthetic aspects to it, but also like the quality of the script, how serious it is on the script.
No, that's fair. And if I try to think of an English-speaking director that's done this jump from 80s camp to serious films, I can't think of it.
That reminds me.
You know that I love Almodóvar. You know that I love him. I just can't make sense of this film he did in 1988.
Look, for example, I'm thinking about like other artists, you know, not only about like directors, but I like the Verge Mode. I do really like them. But also at the same time is that they started in the 80s. And for me, I actually just got familiar with them and I started just liking them in the 90s. So for me, is that when I actually go back and listen to the first albums that they were respected in the 80s, all this synth pop, these are for me is like, no, I can listen to 2 songs out of the 80s age, and then it's like, I'm out of this. So it's the same. I had the feeling that it's the same thing. That is like for me, I got to know Almodóvar on the early years. So for me, it's like this is the trajectory from him. I'm not going to say that this is better than All About My Mother or Pain and Glory, but I'm going to say like this is still part of who he was back then. But if I had watched All About My Mother as the first movie, I would be like, what the fuck was he thinking back then?
Do you think you would think that if you had watched Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown first?
If I actually, that's the reason why I say that is like if someone tells me, I heard about Almodóvar, I have not watched anything, but if you give me like a list of 5 movies, I will watch them. I will say like start with this one because with Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown.
This film?
I would say start with this because if you start watching Pain and Glory, or you start watching Volver, or you start watching All About My Mother, and then you go to this, you're going to say like, this feels like a step back. Not a step back, it's like this feels from a different director. There is like some correlation, like the heels and the shoes, but there is not what I love about these movies. Indeed.
I see what you say because I go back to the relationship with Steve McQueen. I would never tell somebody to go watch 12 Years a Slave, ever. I would say watch Hunger, watch Shame, because those are the films that I feel have the most heart. That's what I would want somebody to experience. I don't feel like Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown had any heart. There's nothing there. I felt so emotionally connected to the characters in All About My Mother. I wanted to be with them. I wanted to make them feel better. With this film, it was so vacant. There was nothing there.
Honestly, I think that there is a different type of heart that you're envisioning. Is that you have to think that from the 80s and the kind of sensibility that he's going to be having there, that's the reason why I'm like a split between this is timely or timeless. Because if I need to understand what was like the sensibility of the 80s for just understanding and appreciating a movie to its full extent, I had the feeling that it's a bit more of a timely piece. That's the reason what I feel is that there is an aspect to it. His sensibility is like from the 80s. Is that they put like TV multiple times about like, oh, this completely bizarre thing that is happening because Carmen Maura is also an actress and she plays like the role of a serial killer, the mother of a serial killer. This is the kind of random stuff that it would be on the TV back then, and they're trying to display like she's a celebrity, but it's a celebrity for very random things. So I understand what you're saying, but for me, I think that the heart that he displays here is a bit more of a more general heart than a heart to the characters per se.
Yeah, and I can accept that.
Yeah, because for example, the part of the taxi.
Culturally, I think there's a lot of things that resonate with you, and for me, as an ugly American who has never left America, I think I miss out on a lot of things.
Oh, you have left America multiple times.
I did a couple times, but I'm still an ugly American.
Okay. Anything else to say about this movie?
No, I mean, I genuinely appreciate when you introduce me to Almodóvar films. Every time you've asked me to watch one of his films, I have loved it. I really do appreciate that director and your interest in him. I don't think this movie is a bad movie at all. For me, it didn't resonate. I hesitate even saying that because I gave the score of the film a 5. This is better than a mediocre movie.
You're saying that this is as good as Scrooge.
Is that what I gave Scrooged? Jesus Christ. Okay, can you change the score to Scrooged? Because this is better than Scrooged. This is much better than Scrooged. So I apologize. I appreciate this choice. I think that I just had higher expectations because everything you showed me by Almodóvar has been exceptional.
Yeah.
I didn't think this was exceptional.
What score would you give? So, are you correcting your score to? Are you? Well, I don't want to say fixing. Are you changing your score?
100%. It has to go up to a 6.
Okay. And the other thing that I was going to be asking you, what score would you give to Pain and Glory and All About My Mother?
Pain and Glory, a 10. I told you, I saw that movie twice in theaters. I think it's a perfect film. That film blew my fucking mind. 10 all across the board. I haven't seen All About My Mother in years, even though I have 2 copies. From what I remember, I would probably give that an 8.5 or a 9. I remember loving that film, and I love the characters.
Yeah. All About My Mother, probably I would give it a 9. I love that movie, and it's like a movie that every single time I had the feeling like it's not going to be like living out to my expectations that I had. I rewatched it like 4 years ago or something. I was like, no, that was good.
Yeah, it's a fucking good movie, and you can feel his heart come through. You can feel his love of the characters. I mean, that's a mind-blowing film.
Yeah.
Not as good as Pain and Glory, but pretty good.
You know, the scene when the kid dies, it still breaks my heart. Like when she's like just on the hospital and they're asking her for the donation, and she breaks down completely. It's like it still like just breaks my heart. It just gives me like goosebumps about like the acting is perfect, the writing is perfect. You know, it's an incredible movie. It's like I think that even for me, I would give it a 9.5 actually, and I would give it a 9 to Pain and Glory. I like All About My Mother more than Pain and Glory.
I respect that.
I really like. I will have to watch Pain and Glory again, but it's like I was like just really surprised when I watched it. It's like, wow, this is one of the best Almodóvar movies.
That movie knocked me on my ass, and I would like to watch All About My Mother again to see how I felt in relationship to Pain and Glory, but I would give Pain and Glory a perfect score. Nothing from Almodóvar has resonated with me as much as that film did.
Well, that's interesting. And that's something, you actually bring an interesting point that is about resonate. You know, it's like, for example, when we watch La Ventura, it's like I liked it, and for you resonates in a way that is like for me.
That is a perfect film.
Okay, technically I definitely is like from all the Antonioni movies that we watched, it's the best because we only watched that one and blah blah. So yeah, it's the best.
This comes down to the discussion we have. There's a discussion about how good a film is, right?
Yeah.
Which is what you score, and there's a discussion about what resonates with you. So yeah, probably something in La Ventura resonated with me. But we can't really decide whether that's a great film for me, for you.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's the same reason for Clueless. You know that it doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't make that it's bad. But
you can't bring up Clueless and La Ventura in the same conversation. You're ridiculous.
Well, but I'm saying, I'm reviewing this course, and with La Ventura, I gave it a 7.5. And you give it a 10. And it's like, I will need to rewatch it, but I remember like a lot of stuff of that movie. It's true that there is not a lot of plot to it. It's just the general idea, and it's 3 hours. You know, everything I remember, like exactly like the points of the story about like this happens, and then it ends. You know, I remember that. It's like so memorable, 100%, because this was like 4 months before we started recording the podcast. So it has been in COVID times. That has been 10 years ago.
Oh wow! We'll have to add that to our list of to be watched.
Oh my god!
That and Clueless.
Again, over and over until I appreciate it, until I become a true American. So what are we watching next?
To be honest, this is a little bit out of spite or revenge, but I'm going to make you watch a completely silent Michael Haneke film called The Seventh Continent.
Who was on this one? It was Isabel Huppert?
No. It's unknown actors. The entire thing is, well, you hear noises, but nobody speaks. There's no dialogue.
Gotcha.
And it's based on a true story, so...
Okay, what can go wrong with Haneke directing a true story?
I think that either our next podcast will last 2 minutes or 2 hours.
Who knows? All right, looking forward. I mean, you know that I like Haneke. I mean, it makes me feel like garbage, but I like him.
We love Haneke. We love him.
Okay, man. Anything else to talk about Almodóvar?
Just wash your hands.
Bye.